Thank you very much. It's so nice to be here and to see women owning, organizing, pushing the boundaries. And on behalf of the CEDAW Committee, I bring you very warm greetings. I'm thrilled that we would have a city and women groups within a city really rallying around the convention. We heard, I was really thrilled at the panel. I had a lot of issues, and some of them I'll try to define them, the principles. In the words of the committee, because I kept hearing trauma-informed, we call that survivor-centered. Everything you do has to center around the survivors. So driven by their experiences, driven by their goals, and driven by their aspirations. Government working with civil society and the private sector and other stakeholders to advance into new frontiers. For many of you, you heard the beautiful story from Dr. Soon Young Yoon, and that's painting the global history. But what we have seen this year marks 45 years of ratifying the convention. And on the committee, what we tend to see is from when we had just one country at the time of ratification, only one country in the world had laws that actually talked about equality within their constitution. But now we have almost 99%. All countries actually have constitutions that guarantee equality. But the challenge is, what we do see is a lot of commitments on paper, but when it comes to actual, accessing those rights, living those rights, and moving from de jure to de facto equality, that is from the law really to the practice, that's where we see the challenge, is that we find that no country, and I'm telling you this working with the Human Rights Council, when CEDAW clocked 40 years, that was a couple years ago, no country in the world from research has attained equality. So we shouldn't feel bad that there's so much organizing and so much work happening, not only here in Cardiff, but around the world, and the CSW remains very relevant, even in the face of backlash. It's because we are yet to achieve the aspirations of the convention. The convention was not put together as a tool to put down countries. No, we don't put down countries, and we're not about abortion. That's what some people choose to call the committee. That's not who we are. We are a committee that works to try to take the CEDAW principles from paper or plastic policies, because that's what we hear from the women on the ground, that a lot of the policies and the laws are just on paper. We try to take them from paper or plastic policies to practical, progressive partnerships for sustainable solutions. And that's what we're here to do, working with the government and the women and the men and families of Cardiff. That Cardiff itself and the government of Wales has stepped up to say, yes, we can build a model city of inclusion, a city where everybody counts. Because what we've seen around the world is over 400, I'm trying to get the right numbers so I don't give you wrong stats. Over 445 laws around the world since the convention was adopted. Some of them on legal, okay, we've succeeded moving from 189 state parties, that 98% of UN member states have ratified the convention. Only one single nation in 1979 had laws criminalizing domestic violence. By 2025, that number has risen to 165 countries. 423 specific laws have been passed by countries around the world. However, no country has achieved equality. We've been able to open doors to justice in 116 countries with specific laws against violence in the home. And of course, we also have 116 countries that have ratified the optional protocol. And what the optional protocol does is countries open themselves and become willing for the committee to investigate cases of violation in that country. And to date, we've had a long list of countries that have been examined, and we've got a lot of compensations that have been paid to people whose rights were violated. One of the landmarks was the Second World War violation against the women of the Philippines, where they were treated as sex slaves during the war, and compensation was paid to that state party by another state party, I won't call the names, after the war. All other groups were actually reparated except the women. And it took like 25 years for the committee to get justice for those women. And I say that to tell you that bringing the convention home to the community, to the grassroots, is what Cities for CEDAW is all about. I happen to know when the Cities for CEDAW started. I was then a fellow at the UN when they started the first research in San Francisco about city lights, and boom, years later, I meet with the Cities for the CEDAW Coalition, presenting to the committee, and I'm cheering. And I said, I know the history, I know the value, I know the purpose, and I'm really delighted to be one of those working with the coalition to make it global. Cardiff is going to be a global model where cities really function to serve the people, and your growth and your economy is driven by the priorities of the community. I'm delighted to be here. The committee is delighted to be here. I'm glad to see men in the room because we need men to make CEDAW work. Thank you very much.